6. Hello, welcome, or welcome back to TSC Talks, the podcast inspired by the condition known as tuberous sclerosis complex. My name is Jill Woodworth, and I am your host. TSC Talks is creating special needs audiovisual and written content designed to facilitate communication, collaboration, and affect societal change. Thanks for tuning in. My guest on the podcast is Mike Robinson. He is a cannabis activist, founder of the Global Cannabinoid Research Center. He has extensive experience as a special needs attorney. He has epilepsy, and he is able to manage it with CBD. He has a lot of lived expertise using CBD and the whole plant cannabis to treat various aspects of epilepsy. He is not a doctor, and I do want to lay out that we are not doctors, and this is not necessarily our opinions. These do not reflect any kinds of beliefs. We are putting this information out there for you to listen to. I found Mike to be fascinating, just very knowledgeable, and I think one of the things that struck me about Mike was when he referred to him as a cannabis expert, and he said, oh, wait a minute, no, nobody is a cannabis expert. We are at the very tip, the very edge of understanding the treatments that are potentially available with this plant. So he talks about helping a woman and her daughter, who happens to be his partner, fiance. Her daughter is on the autism spectrum, was having severe status seizures, and Mike worked in the Compassion Project in California and was able to help a lot of very severe cases of epilepsy. He talks about that. So we just really are all over the place in this interview. I had a great time talking to him, and it's a 2-part episode. I learned so much. I feel you will too. And again, I thank him for being our guest. So stay tuned for more on TSC Talks, because we are embarking on some new projects that I will be talking about in the near future. I don't want to go on too long with this because I know you want to hear Mike, but I also want to say that this is kind of a little diversion away from just talking more about special needs in general, and this is a broader topic. And I think we are going to have some panel discussions and try to include a lot of different perspectives on the CBD cannabis industry. So looking forward to that, as well as also interviewing some upcoming guests on their experience with TSC. And tomorrow I'm interviewing Spectrum Sports. They are a fitness program center that works with the special needs population in New Jersey. So we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up. We were just at Abilities Expo in Boston, Lisa and I, and really enjoyed meeting a lot of different people with incredible, inspiring stories and products that were really fascinating. So that was fun. Anyways, I'm going to stop talking. Yes, I said that before, and I'm going to say, take it away, Mike. Hello, I'm speaking with Mike Robinson, cancer survivor, cannabis activist, founder, Global Cannabinoid Research Center.
Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. I've read a little bit about you. So you're from California, and you're a cancer survivor?
Yes. I started in the cannabis industry, not really in the industry. Basically, I was a patient that had a cannabis card in California and was smoking cannabis, thinking that it was going to help epilepsy. I mean, this was the very beginning. And in 2013, I had a roommate. He was telling me, you can't eat it all, and talking on and on about this can't eat it all problem. And he went to his office. He was an acupuncturist and came back with some Chinese herbs for me to take. And I took them for about 10 days and also had to ingest the cannabis that I would normally smoke. I had no idea that what I was doing was therapeutic. At the time, I was a non-attorney rep and civil rights lobbyist for children in special education disputes, representing kids across. Yeah, so my influence really is from the children and representing them in disputes pro bono in what's called due process.
Oh, I know all about it.
You know all about it. So I'm the guy.
To have go to meeting. Yeah. So
when
awesome.
the IEP, when that IEP process goes sort of sideways,
Yep.
parents, go to advocates, and then advocates generally don't litigate the cases, so it would be passed over to somebody like me. And I was one of the very few in the nation working pro bono, so I was always buried. So here I was, after using this Chinese herb or Korean herb that was made by my roommate and ingesting cannabis. This is back in 2013. In literally 2 days, it'll be 6 years ago to the date on September 8th.
No way.
So I'll reword that. Yeah, so on September 8th, it'll be 6 years ago to the date that Henry, as we called him, my roommate, gave me these little herbal balls that were actually CBD. I didn't know it. He was calling it "can't eat it all." So after about 10 days of using them, I'm thinking, I'm eating my cannabis because I can't smoke it. I'm grumpy. I'm eating these little "can't eat it all" herbal balls, and I'm not seizing. So automatically I thought something I'm eating, my diet is causing more seizures. I had no idea what I was taking, and I threw away these little Chinese herbs. And he comes home, brings it out of the garbage. "Michael, son, can't eat it all, can't eat it all." There's actually a YouTube video, if you put "can't eat it all" into YouTube, and it's a short video of me talking about this, and it's pretty hilarious because I give him a pen and paper, and I'm all frustrated. I just don't want to hear this anymore. I can't eat. And I have a torn ab muscle, so I literally could not eat. And he writes down CANNA, and I'm like looking over his shoulder, like, "What are you writing?" And it's cannabidiol, And I'm like, "What is this? I don't know this word." And I go and plug it into a search engine, because at the time I did a lot of legal research, which set up the foundation to do cannabinoid medicine research all the way down this line. So literally I plug it into a search engine, and up pops Charlotte, and I realize, hey, these are the kids that are using this plant extract. I don't even know what it is yet. Charlotte's Web wasn't even on the market yet. So I got on the phone and started calling everybody I could. I need this CBD. I need these cannabis oils. I was so busy in the work that I did, I was not tuned into what was happening in cannabis, other than the fact that I could get a card and get weed and smoke it, so to say. So
Mike, can I just ask you a question real quick? What is the epilepsy? Can you give me a little bit of information about that, or is that not something you want to talk about?
No, I'm happy to talk about that. In 1995, I was in a high-speed auto racing wreck that was very destructive. I was very lucky to get through it. And one of the resultants from that wasn't just right-side paralysis that put me in a wheelchair for a while. It was also severe refractory epilepsy with status events. So what that means,
I know what status is.
A total of 39 times I've been intubated and put into ICU in a coma induced to stop. 39 times. I've had over 200 hospitalizations after being brought to ER trauma in status over an 18-year period of time. It all came to an end on September 8th, 2013, with the introduction of, quote, "can't eat it all" by my Korean roommate.
Wow.
And the understanding that cannabis is awesome medicine if you know how to use it right.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing. And, that's really what got me going. So here I was, a cannabis patient, and I already had a card. So now talking to people, I already have a following because I've worked pro bono for years all over the nation with disabled kids. So I start talking it up online about it, I start talking about quitting some of the medications. I was taking 48 pills a day for seizure control, epilepsy.
What were you taking? Do you remember?
3 different benzodiazepines. I was taking Keppra, Lamictal, Vimpat, Tegretol, and phenobarbital, along with Ativan, Valium, and clonazepam. Okay, so we're talking about, I was a walking pharma machine.
Oh my goodness.
And I wanted to quit. So I go online and start typing about this and go public on Facebook. It was a dual-edged sword, a very much dual-edged sword. What happened was a guy showed up that I talked to and told where I was at, what was going on, knocked on my door, and it's like, I'm like, hello? And I opened the door, and a guy in a cowboy hat and a tie-dye, and he walks in and says, hey, Mike, I've been reading about everything. I talked to you. You actually gave me your address. I was like, oh, okay. And he sits down on my couch, crosses his legs, pulls out a bag with 6 syringes of full extract cannabis oil, or what people call RSO, and tells me, this will help you get off these pills. And I was amazed. At the time, I had not recurred with cancer yet. I was only fighting severe refractory epilepsy, but I did have chronic Lyme's disease at the time and much more other health issues that cannabis treated. So it was amazing. I was introduced to compassion within the first week of going public. The dual-edged sword part of it was attorneys that represent school districts and states that I was in the process of suing under due process laws, picked up those posts and used them in different motions to remove me from cases because I was under the influence of a Schedule I substance. And those were very effective motions.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's really, really frustrating.
I mean, to this day, if I take a case, I know I have to settle it. I can't file anything on it. So I just don't do that kind of pro bono work anymore. It shifted into cannabis compassion. So many of these shifts have occurred that's given me this unicorn type of journey. So as I used oil to get off the multitudes of pills that I were on and wean it all the way down to only 4 pills a day for epilepsy instead of 48, I had no idea, zero idea at the time that cannabis oil treated Lyme's disease. So here it is, 6 months later, I go into a physical, and with my doctor, my primary care doctor, he had to take over because my epileptologist called CPS because I would not pick up the seizure medication anymore. Or, I'm sorry, APS, Adult Protective Services. So I got a knock on the door. Can we see your refrigerator? Can we see how come you're not picking up your medicine? It was crazy. So I lost my neurologist, my epileptologist, and I ended up with just my primary care doctor. He was 68 years old. He knew what CBD was. He knew about cannabis oils, and he supported me. So he was like, look, I'll write your prescriptions from here on out, but what I want to do is some testing on the Lyme's disease because you haven't had a titer done lately. So he did a Lyme's titer, a Western blot, and sent me on my way. I got home, and there was already a phone call. There's some type of lab error. So I called back the doctor and asked, what's the problem? They're like, well, we need you to come back in and do labs again. And I just thought, okay, this happens. Maybe the drug counts are looking for, barbital, what have you, in my blood weren't right. Who knows, So I go back, they pull more blood. And it's about 3-4 days later, I get a call from the nurse at the doctor's office saying, doctor would like to see you as soon as possible. You can just drop in, and he just wants to talk to you for 5 minutes. So I've got the fear in me at this point.
No
I'm like,
kidding,
oh man. And I'm somebody, I had cancer in 2003, went through conventional therapy. The conventional therapy caused the paralysis to come back that I once had. So I was like, no way could I have cancer again. I didn't want to fight that fight. So I was so worried about it. So I get to the doctor's office. He pulls me back in. He goes, look, Mike, I'm not sure if you're aware, but the cannabis oils that you're using are known to also eradicate Lyme's disease. And your Lyme's titer is at 0, and your Western blot has been negative twice in a row. I'm going to have to put it into your insurance company to get approval to test you again, and they denied it. A year after that, Lyme's titer 0, today 0. I had chronic Lyme's disease from 1992 all the way until 2014. Only cannabis oil got rid of it.
Unbelievable.
And I had no idea I was treating it. So here I am, so excited about all this. I get on the phone and call the guy that brought me that oil, told him what happened. And he's like, look, I want to take you to meet some of the people that do what I do. They make oil, they give it away. And that literally was the birthing of a compassion program that treated so many kids and adults. It was just incredible. It's just incredible. And that's something I can't go too deeply into because this is pre-Prop 64 in California. That law in California, the recreational cannabis law, did prohibit the gifting of cannabis. There's current legislation that's turning that around right now, but what we used to do is highly illegal today. There's current laws right now in progress. AB 34 is making its way through the Senate, the Brown-Mary bill, which will once again allow compassion in California.
Can you just define compassion for anybody out there that's listening that might not know?
Well, I'm so glad you asked that because we have a lot of compassion centers in different states across the nation. And these are places that generally charge for what they're selling.
Okay.
And the key word is selling. A true compassion program designed after the Dennis Perone dream, the man that wrote with a team Prop 215 in California, which was the first legalization of medicinal marijuana since Prohibition in the United States. The man that did this had a dream for compassionate care, and that did not include charging people that are sick and cannot afford oils. So when I talk about a compassion program, I'm talking about going out and seeing people that can't buy what's on the internet, don't know what to get, bringing them what they need, showing them how to use it, researching the actual product, the actual cannabinoids being used, so you can show family members, hey, this is why we're using this application. It could be oils that are ingested. It could be suppositories, topicals.
Wow.
So
you are really studied in this, in treating or understanding the
endocannabinoid system.
Endocannabinoids, yep.
Yeah, so we have a system within our body that, makes all these cannabinoids, which are called exocannabinoids, that come from the plant, fire up endocannabinoids, which are in our body, and they also work in unison. So this is all a beautiful thing that I had to learn about as somebody that worked in law with an education in international relations and diplomacy. And, I did not have the key elements to be a scientific researcher or be what I am today, actually a published author of academia in international journals of medicine. I've got 3 or 4 out there already published now. So, this is sort of a crazy journey.
Amazing.
So we're sort of jumping from one thing to another a little bit, but it all fits together because, what happened was throughout these years of providing compassionate oils to children and adults and visiting people, I couldn't drive. I have severe epilepsy. And at the time, it's very important to state this compassion program was also ignited with a recurrence of non-Hodgkin's in myself at stage 4, coupled with Hodgkin's lymphocytic, coupled with prostate cancer. I had 3 stage 4 cancers at one time while we had the compassion program thriving. And I didn't think I was going to live. I felt that we had to help as many people as possible. I didn't think I had enough time to really effectively do a lot, but the universe was looking down on us, and the cannabis is medicine, and even with 3 stage 4 cancers, the journey has been difficult. But what's so intense is along the line, I'm sitting here in my home office right now, which we call the Global Cannabinoid Research Center. Okay,
awesome.
But right next to me is the front door that I knocked on 3 years ago after a frantic message from a mom. And generally, I don't even take messages. My notifications are off. I'm using 2 cell phones. It's hard to keep up with what's going on.
I hear you.
Checking things. But one night, I'm in LA and I'm getting ready to head to Lompoc, California. I don't even know where that is. So I'm like Googling LA to Lompoc. Okay, this is where I go. And I can't drive. So I got a ride taking me. And I'm getting ready to get in the shower. I set my alarm clock, and I think, okay, I'm not going to hear the alarm clock unless I turn the notifications on. So I turn my notifications on, and it's like, ding, and I go to this message, and it's a mom. A friend of hers gave her a gram of CBD oil, and he does vape carts. So right away in my head, This is CO2 vape card oil, 60, 70, 80% CBD, way, way too strong. And I'm worried. I'm like, no, hold off on giving that. You haven't given a dose yet to her, and tell me what's going on. And she was frantic, and I could see that there were serious problems, and this little girl needed help. So I asked, where are you located? And literally an off-ramp right off of where I was going the next day, the very next morning. So I was on my way to see Brandon, another compassion patient who's about to hit 4 years without a seizure. And at the time, he was 1 year without a seizure. And I was on my way to interview him, take photos, and do a social media thing and talk it up. And back then, we talked it up on social media about the compassion program. It was still legal. Under Prop 215, we could do it. So we're posting photos. Hey, give up your trim, give up your this. If you're an extractor, help us out. So that was the plan for the next day. But instead, I stopped here at Genevieve's house, at my fiance or wife, whatever you'd like to call her, Anne Marie's home. Okay, and I knock on the door and it's frantic. She's having problems. They'd already been to the doctor that day. She'd been in the hospital most of the summer. The reason why I wanted to come is because her mom told me the list of medications she was taking. Multiple were pro-convulsive, and a very opinionated person that will state my opinion. And my opinion was that doctors were very careless and gave a child that had autism and epilepsy drugs that cause seizures. And even after she spent
what was she on?
In the hospital, she was on Keppra.
Keppra?
She was on
awful.
Keppra.
Kepra's awful.
It's the first drug I quit when I started oil. So she spent weeks in the hospital after a Keppra side effect. The hospitalist discontinues Keppra. She gets out of the hospital. The neurologist orders Keppra again.
Are you serious? Well, no, I know how that happens.
Okay, this is ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
We've got a drug with horrible side effects. Keprage hits over 15% of users.
Oh, my son
me.
had it. Yep.
So it was just a serious situation where had multiple different medications that didn't jive with each other, let alone CBD.
Oh my goodness.
So I needed to be here immediately, and I could be. While I was here, she seized, and I had oil in my pocket. And there's different articles that say I went to a car. I don't even drive. You know what I mean? But because I had cancer at the time, I just had maintenance oil in my pocket. I was using a couple ml a day. So at the time I had 2 single mLs in my pocket. And I had a child on the ground in a full-blown grand mal, going status. And I administered oil, looking at mom, is this okay? Please don't call the cops. You know what I mean? I'm all freaked out. And she's like, yeah, and literally gets up and goes into her bedroom, and we check on her. She's okay. Mom's like crying and tears are falling, and I don't really know why. And she explains to me, sheets are on the floor because if she walks so many feet, she falls down and seizes all the time and then lays on the floor. So she'll put a sheet down for her, and she's in the bedroom, making this noise. She's humming. And now I know that noise. I sleep to that noise. It's such a beautiful noise because that is her happy noise. And she had not hummed in a long, long time. So her mom was just overwhelmed with emotion.
I'm going to tear up a little. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
It's because she walked to her bedroom with a perfect gait. So I thought, okay, this kid's got a perfect gait. I had no idea that it was way off, and she couldn't even walk through her room. I had no idea until after those moments when I sat with mom, which is now Anne Marie, and asked her, what's going on. And she told me UCLA has to do a clearance before she can go back to school. And I was like, okay, hold on a second. And I explained to her what I actually have done. And historically, and I was like, I'll take on Genevieve as an actual special ed client. I don't do it often, but I'll do it. And it was like, if they're not going to let her back into school, then I'm stepping up. It's something, we're not going to go for that one. And literally, it was amazing because after this discussion between the two of us, comes back out to the living room and sits down with her mom and starts engaging in her iPad. And I'm thinking, okay, kids with autism, they use their icon-to-speech app all the time. And instead, I didn't know that she'd just been holding the iPad, doing nothing with it for a long period of time. And she holds it out, and her mom asks her, "Can you tell me how you feel?" And she hits, "I feel happy." And she's got a smile on her face. And I'm moving around from different compassion patient to compassion patient, and it's very hard to know, the history before.
Of course.
It's hard to remember them all.
I can only imagine.
But I do my very best, and it was a situation where I could see that there was, a history where she had great difficulties. So it just was so intense to see her, literally come to life after being given the dose, her very first dose. It was so intense, I actually wrote about it. I wrote an article about her, 3 years ago about my compassion patient that just, boom, came back that fast. And
that it ever happened like that before?
It happens
where you
all
were
the time.
Really?
Well, I mean, not all the time today, but back then it would happen quite often. Administered the cannabis oil to her because I knew specifically, without a doubt, that she was going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the thing about it is there's a lot of talk. And when I came, I had bottles of CBD with me because we had a big push for CBD. A lot of people needed it. A lot of kids wanted it. Parents wanted it. And it's incredible the number of parents that will come back, especially with severe autism and even severe epilepsy. And they're just having problems. They need a little bit more of the plant. And, I'm a firm believer in using the whole plant. When it comes to severe autism, I believe that using THC, its degraded cousin CBN. CBN is an awesome cannabinoid to really mellow out any behavior, including my own. It promotes sleep, rest, and it makes the mind rest. So it'll really calm down children with autism. Yeah, CBN. So anyway, responded so well. It was just beyond incredible. She was able to, within the first week of using oil, the reports I got back from her mom with videos and pictures were just amazing. The day after she started, her mom took her to the doctor, and the doctor was like, "What did you do? What happened?" She was like, "She doesn't need a UCLA clearance. She's just fine. Let her go back to school." Literally overriding the neurologist. The primary care doctor said, "No, this child is doing awesome." And her mom told her, "Well, a guy came by and brought me CBD and other oils to use with her." And the doctor was ecstatic about it. She was like, "Great. Keep doing it."
Awesome.
And the neurologist wasn't exactly jumping for joy, but is not the first patient of his that has stopped seizing using cannabis oils. The boy that I was going to see was also a patient of his. So he has a little bit of history here.
Yeah, with the docs sometimes. Do you find that it's difficult? There's a resistance to, it seems risky if you're not educated in understanding cannabis.
And I think that's why there's such a misconception that CBD is the end all when it comes to treating seizures, when it comes to treating autism, on and on and on. People are running after CBD because I believe doctors are more comfortable with it. I don't understand that. If you prescribe oxycodone, if you prescribe benzodiazepines, if you prescribe any mind-altering substance, which is a ton of pharmaceuticals, why would you be worried? Why worry about THC when you're taking Valium, when you're taking any kind of drug that's going to, without a doubt, alter how you feel, and you have absolutely no control to change that? When you have THC on board, you always have CBD on the side to mitigate its effects. So, for example, if appears too medicated, because I'm not going to say the word too high. She's not high. She's medicated. And she is
properly.
Medicated properly. She takes 0 pharmaceuticals, has not for
I
a
am
year
so
and a half.
jealous. I mean, in a good way. That is just, because I have 3 kids that have seizures and are on meds, lots of meds, because they have psych issues. And it's just, the older they get, the more anxious I get about it, the more frustrated I get, and the more disconnected their care gets. So it's just
Exactly.
I am
Exactly.
so
And I'll tell you
glad to hear this.
What's happening with right now is so exciting. It's hard to even talk about it. I'm so excited.
I
mean,
feel it. I feel it.
She just turned 16 a month ago to the date. And all we're working on right now, because she has a little bit of a digging problem, like in her hands, she'll like sort of go at her hands. She's very scarred historically from doing it intensely. She doesn't do it intensely anymore, but we need them to heal, because this girl at age 16, a severely autistic child, and I laugh at that diagnosis now, has been given the special hand cream made by a compassion provider locally. It's a cannabis type of cream mixed with all kinds of essential oils to help heal her hands so she can potty train. She is so ready. And the compassion provider comes by, a friend of mine, and sits down with her and tells her, we're going to start putting this on your hands so you can go potty in the big girl potty. And I explained to her, we're going to start putting this on. You got to keep it on, and your hands are going to get better, and then you can start going potty in the big girl potty, and you don't have to wear your diaper. And it's like the next morning, mom wakes up to actually taken her diaper off and just went to the bathroom because
oh my gosh.
So I mean, we're talking. This does not happen with severe autism. When you have a child that's severely autistic and they go through puberty, generally, whatever behaviors you have, whatever level of cognition you have, set in stone. It's there. You're done. You're not making, and this goes all the way back to the studies of Stevenson and Lovaas at UCLA and so much further. I mean, once you get beyond puberty, trying to change or mold the behavior is literally impossible with autism. With all the pharmaceuticals in the world, you can't do this. But with cannabinoid medicine, it has literally made a decade of cognitive gain in 3 years. She's gone from age 3 to 13 in 3 years.
Unbelievable.
So, I mean, literally, she would be going to the bathroom in the potty right now if we could just get the hands healed. But she's doing things that amaze us by the day. And you know how it is. You share the little things. But, you know, it's just incredible how this all happened, because she was my compassion patient for well over a month, and she dropped her iPad, you know, jumping back to 2016 here. You know, she dropped her iPad in late September of 2016, and I was trying to get some people to throw in some funds, some of the compassion people, and they're already strapped. They're already giving everything they can.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I was heading up to Chico from Kern County one day, the very next day after I heard she dropped her iPad. And I thought, well, I'll just cruise to Santa Barbara and then go to Chico. And we're talking like 20 hours of Amtrak instead of 8.
Oh, see, I have no, I'm from the East. I have no clue.
So literally, I take a jaunt and everybody's scratching their head going, Mike, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is a compassion patient. We go beyond just giving them oil. This iPad is her voice without, and this gets pretty in-depth for me. Back in 1995, when I got in a serious racing wreck that gave me severe epilepsy, you know, I was in the hospital for quite a while. I came home to find my own son deep in the world of autism. I started nonprofits to represent kids with autism in special ed because of my own son. So, I mean, that's why I do everything I do. It's what that was a foundation, the true foundation for it all. And he's very severe. My ex-wife doesn't allow cannabinoid medicine, so he does not get what he gets. And it's a night and day difference. So, you know, it's just incredible how this journey has brought us, because I bring her this iPad and mom says, well, at least let me show you Santa Barbara, you know, before you get back on the train and leave. So we go out for a few hours, and while we're out, she gets sick. So I come home and help her clean up, and mom's watching me like, this man's helping me clean up vomit. You know what I mean? Who does this?
Right.
I'm so used to being around the kids. I mean, to me, it's second nature. So a month goes by, and I contact her, and we're talking by text and that kind of thing, and a relationship starts building, and I come back, and I stay for a couple of days, in an Airbnb, and we date a couple times.
Uh-huh.
And another month goes by, and it's her birthday. And so I come for her birthday for a couple of days in December of 2016. And the Cannabis love story sort of builds momentum this way. And, she explains to me that his dad passed away nearly a decade ago
Uh-huh.
in the Christmas holidays, and how hard it is over Christmas break. And I already know. I've already been in the world of autism for decades in special ed and special needs, so I know Christmas break is hard. Kids are all of a sudden off school. They're not used to it. So I tell her, look, I'll come spend Christmas break with you. And that is how the family was made. I got here on Christmas Eve, and, I was going to leave on the 2nd and head back out on the road and go compassion providers, that extractors, etc., and get the oils and get them distributed out again and go see patients. I didn't end up leaving until the 10th, and I'm out on the road for maybe 5-6 days, and I get a couple of messages from Anne Marie, and she's like, "You're not going to believe this," and they're videos, and she loves The Simpsons, and she really started engaging in her iPad. Today, she has 3 iPads and 4 phones. That's how much she loves devices.
Oh, that's like my daughter on the spectrum.
So she's on a video pointing to Homer Simpson on an iPad, and she has her mom's phone also, because mom has to cough up her phone. She always wants that. She's in pictures on her mom's phone, and there's a picture of me, and she's pointing to it. Now, she just started saying mommy only weeks ago, which had made her mom elated.
Yep.
So while I'm here, she says the word mommy a couple times, and she's barely vocalizing at the time. So in this video, it was a tearjerker. She's pointing to Homer and then pointing to me. Daddy, daddy.
Oh, my goodness.
Daddy, daddy. And I'm like, this little girl, she just adopted me. I don't need to adopt her. She just told me where I belong.
Right.
I couldn't stay away. I was gone for maybe 3 or 4 more days and came back. And I'm telling you, those trips out on the road became shorter and shorter. And, we became a family. She's got a younger sister who's now 9. I call her little big sister. She's got an older sister who just turned 20 and recently moved out to the Vegas area with our grandson and our son-in-law, Michael. So literally, it created a family. Compassion in itself, the giving, created what we have today. And it's sad that this became historic, because there's not programs like that. And even with the new law that's in the works, there's not going to be anything quite like that can just give away oil freely to anybody, anywhere. Go meet with them, go over the science and talk to them. Without a doubt, I had to wait several years after the end of this program to be able to do talks like this, because statutes of limitations had to expire.
Oh, my God.
I had to. I worked in law.
Yeah.
What I did was, and that's so frustrating to sit and think about. We just started talking about Genevieve's journey. It was just printed in High Times. And we literally had to hold everything up because I had to look at the date that I came out, when did I administer oil to her, and what was the date of her getting a recommendation? Did she get the recommendation after the oil? Well, of course, because I rescued a child who never had oil before.
Right.
We had to look at the legalities of even talking about this.
Oh, my goodness.
Which is horrific. It makes our government look horrible. It's one thing to say, hey, we're going to keep cannabis as a Schedule I while we farm out the work to the UK to create pharmaceutical drugs like GW's Epidiolex and bring it back onto American soil. Literally, I mean, that's one hypocritical move to make on our government. Cannabis isn't medicine. It's Schedule I there with LSD and heroin.
I know.
But we're making pharmaceutical versions extracting directly from cannabis. But since we can't live with our lie, we're going to create the Farm Bill so we can go ahead and move CBD away from cannabis and call it hemp. That's what our government did there.
Yeah.
And it's pretty ugly. In the meantime, people are fighting cancer all over the place, and this is why the compassion program existed and kept pushing through, was because of the fact that people need much more than a single cannabinoid. And when I say that, I'm even talking about THC.
Yes.
Any one single cannabinoid all by itself, without the rest of the plants, is not as effective as the rest. So our government's really holding us back.
Are you involved in the testing of it at all, or is it, how do you get well, I guess, you're saying that it's over now.
Well, it's over now to an extent.
To an extent, okay.
Okay, a patient can still gift to a patient under the guidelines of Prop 64 or the max amount. So that does allow me to do patient-to-patient consultations. It does allow me to, which I don't charge for, just talk to patients for free because I want to help them, one, and two, I want information so I could use it to study.
Yeah.
And it allows me to do survey studies. I'm not a doctor. I can't study a patient. I can't study what THC will do on a human, but I definitely can study what a human says about THC. So we're really in such a we're in a gray area, and the stigmatism, the discrimination, the minimization of what cannabis can do for the populace is just incredible. I mean, our government's been doing this forever. So many people are not aware that when cannabis was prohibited, that the AMA adamantly opposed it, gave hours of testimony to the Senate, telling the Senate that not one of their pharmaceuticals they were talking about could replace the cannabis tinctures on the shelves of pharmacies. So prohibition goes down in 1937, but the removal of cannabis tinctures and cannabis as medicine did not occur from the U.S. Pharmacopoeia until 1942. The tinctures were not removed from pharmacy shelves until the early 1940s because it took 5 years of reefer madness propaganda inserted everywhere, radio, film, you name it.
Right.
And this is the big kicker, in order for a very trusting populace that gave away their gold and silver to make ammunition for wars. I mean, this is how much Americans trusted the government. We gave up our wedding ring. Here, make a bullet out of my wedding ring. I mean, that's literally what we did back then. So we trusted the government. Right. And people continued taking their cannabis tinctures. They had no idea that these cannabis medicines they'd used for literally decades and their parents had used had anything to do with this reefer or marijuana.
Really?
They had no idea at all. So it took those years of reefer madness propaganda to finally get it through to the American public that, hey, the cannabis you're using is that reefer. And that's how they got it removed from the U.S. Pharmacopoeia and how they got it off of the shelves of the pharmacies. So literally 5 years after the production of hemp stops, people are still getting prescriptions. Over 1 million prescriptions were written for cannabis tinctures in the year 1937. That's a fact.